All right, this is the only video you ever need to watch on cold email. This is going to tell you an A to Z strategy, how to do everything, what you need to do, how to think about cold email. We're not going to go into a ton of depth here, but I want you guys to understand, like, here are the checklists, here are the things that I need to do when I set up a campaign. So this is sort of a one-stop shop for how the entire process works. So in the beginning, the most important thing is you want to determine who you are reaching. So who is the ideal customer profile? So you develop an ICP and you want to do some market research. You want to get a client brief. You want to really ask yourself, what are these people looking for? Who are these people in an organization? And not just who has the power to sign the contract and sign the deal, but who's dealing with these problems that my company solves on a day-to-day level. You want to create a list of who these people are in a company and also what companies really want my service. You always want to go to wherever the demand is the strongest. And you turn all of these questions, like for Miraponte, for our company, we have like an intake form where sometimes clients send us 20 pages. Like it's you really want to focus on who am I helping the most with these services, because remember, cold email is a scalpel, it's not a broadsword. You want to specifically reach out to people in market segments that have a very high level of relevancy with regards to what you're selling. So the number one thing is generating an ideal customer profile. And then what we do as a business, or what you can do with your own campaigns, is you take that ideal customer profile, and then you're like, all right, well, how do I reach these people? And that's a scraping strategy. So, for example, let's say I want to target companies that are making at least 100, let's say $30 million a year. So what I can do is I can look for companies that have at least 150 employees. So if I figure I have 150 employees, median income is something like 60,000. You add taxes and bonuses to that, that's like, let's say 100,000 a year. And if I have 150 of those, that means I'm at least pulling in based on payroll, I'm at least going to be of the approximate size. So a lot of times there's information that you can get that's really easy to get, and then there's some information that's really hard to get. So you always want to look at, okay, well, once I have my ideal customer profile, how do I find these people at scale? And that becomes your scraping strategy. There's a lot of nuance here, especially if you're selling something that's very polarized in the market. Like if you're doing a crypto company or an NFT company, you want to look for places in the market where they're already interested in that. They're already working with those kinds of companies. You always want to look for, where is the demand? What are the clues? Maybe it's an influencer that they're following. Maybe it's really easy. Maybe it's just a B2B campaign and you can just scrape LinkedIn. Sometimes it's more complicated. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, how do I reach Instagram influencers that have 1 million+ followers? How do I get their emails? Right. And then it's a more complex strategy. So you develop the ICP, and then you develop a scraping strategy that lets you reach out to those people at scale. The third thing that you want to do is something called waterfall enrichment. That means you're using multiple lead generation sources and you're comparing the data against each other. A lot of these companies, whether you're paying $100 a month or $50,000 a year, they're all sharing data with each other. So if you use just one, a lot of times you're missing data. If you use two or three, you're going to get almost all of the market. So waterfall enrichment, just a fancy way of saying you're cross-referencing different data sources against each other, so you get the full access to the market. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to triple verify all of this information. There are great options that do this for you, companies like ListKit. If you're running very large campaigns, you can also do it yourself, because you end up saving money when you do it yourself. So what does it mean to triple verify? So when you get a bunch of emails from a company like Apollo, or a company like Seamless, or a company like ZoomInfo, the sales reps that work for these companies will always tell you, hey, don't even worry, like, all the data is accurate. We're scraping the internet in real time. We have this proprietary method. We make sure all those emails are good. But because these companies are charging you for leads, they're incentivized to give you as many leads as possible. So you can assume that about a third of that data is bad. So what you do is you go to a email verification service like Neverbounce or Million Verifier, and you just make sure that all of those emails don't bounce. So that's the second step. And then the third step is you want to verify your catchalls. Now, what's a catchall? A lot of times for legal reasons or for financial reasons, a company actually can't receive or a company has to receive every email. So let's say you had surgery and then 3 years later you email your doctor with a question. Now that doctor's not at the hospital anymore, but the hospital still has to get that email. So that's an example of a catch-all. So it's an email that every email that you send to that company is going to go through. But is it a real email? We don't know. So you have to verify catch-alls. That's another step. We have an internal team that does this. There's also companies like Scrubby that'll do this for you. So you triple verify the leads. And then what you want to do is you create assets to allow you to send the cold emails at volume. So let's say for us, for all of our campaigns for our clients, we have clients that work with very, very large companies typically. And usually the customer lifetime value is about $200,000 plus. They don't actually need a ton of volume. So we typically like to set up 15 domains and 30 inboxes, so 2 inboxes per domain. So instead of having one email account that's sending 1,200 emails a day, we've got 30 little ones that are sending 40 a day. So you're setting up assets to protect your domain. If you send emails from your own domain, it's a little bit like driving, it's a little bit like riding a motorcycle really fast with no health insurance because you have no idea. You could do everything right and the domain still gets banned. Has it happened to us? Never. Could it happen? Yeah. A lot of times what happens is when you have a bunch of domains, you cycle through. Some of them will take a little hit, you pause them, let them warm back up, and then other ones are doing really well. And you're always monitoring your domain health and your reputation. But at the end of the day, it's just these are just ways to increase deliverability. The most important thing with cold email is deliverability. If nobody's seeing it, what does it matter how great the email is? So number one is deliverability. We average 75% deliverability per every 100,000 emails we send, including Fortune 500 companies, including giant campaigns. We're averaging 75%. Industry standards 15 to 25%. So that's the big. Everything that we're doing here is for domain health. We use Outlook for inboxes as well. I would use Gmail a little bit less, especially when you're emailing larger clients. And also, there's a warm up and a ramp up period. So the emails take about 12 business days to warm up, give or take. If you're using a company like SmartLead, there's actually a little algorithm in SmartLead that tells you when the emails are ready to send. If you want to be safe, you do a warm up process for about 12 business days. And then there's a ramp up period for 30 days. So you're slowly ramping up from 5 emails per inbox per day to 30 emails. Again, so you don't trigger spam. Remember, the challenge with cold email is that I have to think it's real, Microsoft have to think it's real, and Google has to think it's real. So everything you're doing is mimicking human behavior. The crazy thing about the cold email campaigns that we do is we had a call with a client today, and she's like, when I send an email from my email, it bounced or it went into spam. When I send an email from the email that you guys set up for me, the clients always get it. So I'm like, the fake emails are better than the real emails, which is kind of funny. But if you do this right and you set things up properly, you'll get really good results with that. The next thing that you want to do is you're always testing different angles and different campaigns against each other. So there's something called like A/B testing, where just like you A/B test different Google ads, for example, you're A/B testing different offers. We always A/B/C/D test different emails against each other to see what the market responds to. And then there's also testing where you're trying different angles in different sub segments of the market and seeing which angles are more lucrative. You want to do both with your campaigns. These are all things that you need to do to set up a cold email campaign. Each one of these I could do a 20-minute video on. But if you do all of these things, you generate an ICP, you generate a scraping strategy based on that ICP. You use waterfall enrichment, you triple verify all of the leads, you monitor domain reputation, you set up inboxes and domains to protect your main domain from losing value. You set up the inboxes properly, you warm up and ramp up to full volume, you ABCD test, and you also test different angles and different offers. You're going to have a really successful campaign over time because you don't have all the answers, the market doesn't have all the answers, but you doing best practices and getting feedback from the market is going to yield a really, really positive result over time. There's other little things that you can do, like spin tax and AI personalization. We can talk about those later, but those are the big levers to pull in a campaign. So I make videos about cold email, I make emails about sales, and I make emails about myself and my wife as business owners. If these are interesting to you, like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do.